What's up, everybody? Welcome to Strength Solutions Podcast. Today, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, and rate and review us. Then on YouTube, you can leave a comment down below, hit the like, smash that subscribe button. Our website is strengthsolutionspodcast.com. Strength Solutions Podcast at gmail.com. Nathaniel's throwing me off this morning. And then email us Strength Solutions Podcast at gmail.com. Social media, Strength Solutions Podcast, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. And again, Nathaniel's throwing me off, and I'm Strength Solutions Edwin.
I'm Strength Solutions Nathaniel.
It's all your fault, buddy. Okay. So we had a topic the other day, and it was by someone you know.
Yep.
And it was about how can you afford a trainer and save money tips, right?
Right. Yes.
So I think we should start with a lot of people think it's expensive. According to what? So, in a typical night, someone will go to get drinks, have dinner. And it's about $200 on a weekend. That's at least almost 3 sessions for some people.
Yeah.
2 for others, 2.5. And you can see a trainer almost once a week. Just off of 1 weekend worth, which you do multiple weekends in a row.
Right. I think the thing is that people, you don't really understand how much money you spend. You know what I mean? And how quickly it goes. Like the other day I was thinking to myself and I was like, man, if I bought food for my family, like every meal, even if it was just 2 meals, let's say I bought like breakfast and dinner and we went out for it. It's like $30 for breakfast and like $60 for dinner. That's $100 just gone in a single day. Right. Yep. And most people get lunch every single day. Right.
Yes, I know people who get lunch every single day.
Or you go for drinks after work or something like that. And so like every day you're spending at least $60, maybe $70. That's a training session, and you could do that. And if you can do that every day, then you can definitely get a training session. Right. Yeah. I think what happens is that people you're prioritized, right? Your priorities. And so you look at it and you're like, well, there's no way I could do that because I'm doing all these other things. It's like, well, you have to change your priorities, right? You have to decide that getting a trainer would probably be more, beneficial for you than going out or getting dinner every night or whatever it is.
Yeah. And you got to see training as a investment in yourself, right? Yeah. Long-term health, the way you move and feel. I'll give you a perfect example. Recently, I had a client who was telling me they wasted a lot of money in the stretch lab. And I've done more for them in 2 months than the 6 to 7 months they spend in the stretch lab. And I was like, well, the stretch lab probably helps a lot of people.
Sure.
Because they can't move. The problem is you can move, but you don't know how to load. And those are 2 different concepts. And that's why the stretch lab didn't help you out.
Right.
And 2, when you're loading correctly, because they had a twist when they were squatting, helped with all that. And she's like, I've come so far, like less setbacks, less pain. My core is getting stronger. We literally did just Zercher holds today.
Nice.
And literally, it's an investment in your body to feel better. And a lot of the clients that I have, they see it as I'm investing in myself so I can move better and feel better. And it's crazy how intelligent a lot of these people are when they're like, well, I know I don't know this, so I'm going to a professional to do this.
Right.
It's like me going to a financial advisor because God knows I don't know everything.
Right.
Right. Although I tell Nathaniel I know everything. But I go to that person to get advice. I call my brothers sometimes to get advice. And it's been a while since I've done it, but I ask for advice. Sometimes my dad gives me advice and I don't listen. But
sure.
There's a lot of advice that he gave me throughout his life that was really good advice. And I think we need to get out of our heads and say we know everything. I should just be able to work out. Well, a lot of people don't realize the reason you're not working out has nothing to do with physical activity, has nothing to do with nutrition, has nothing to do with sleep. It has to do with the behaviors you created since you were little.
Yeah.
And what we try to do is coach you along the process to help you with those behaviors.
One of the things that a lot of my clients tell me is that it's just the accountability factor of it all, right? Just having somebody waiting for you, having someone to push you. One of my clients the other day was like, man, if I had a leg day, every day I go to the gym, I'd be like, it'll be an easy one. I'll just do an easy leg day. I'll just do something simple. And
I think I know who you're talking about.
Just get it done and then leave.
Sounds like a guy I know.
And he was like, but now that you're here and we're pushing every day, like I don't have that excuse. Right. And so it's like keeping yourself accountable. There's so many benefits to training. And it's funny looking at it in like a perspective, because going back to going out or for drinks or whatever, all of that is such a like fleeting experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's gone the moment you're done with your food or the
Mm-hmm.
moment you leave the bar or whatever it is. But training is like the thing that just keeps going, right? Now it's not that immediate satisfaction, right? And I think that's the thing where people have a lot of issue with, where it's like after one workout, there's not really a lot of change, right? It takes multiple, it takes consistency, it takes staying accountable and continuing to do it every single time. And I think that's where people kind of like put it to the side and they're like, nah, I don't want to do it. Right.
Yeah. And there's a big advantage being a trainer versus a PT. Right. And the big advantage is you become a friend. So you text outside of that window.
Right.
Like I text clients all the time. Did you do your exercises? Actually, since I'm talking about this, there's one person I know I need to text right after this. And did you do your exercises to kind of help facilitate with your pain and managing the pain and helping that? And we become friends. I ask, hey, how's pickleball? Where in a professional setting like a PT setting, you can't really do that.
Right.
No PTs are sending automatic texts saying, hey, are you working on your exercises? Are you doing this? What company does that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not one company. And you know what? If there's a company that comes out with that for PTs who automatically, they just input it in and boom, it sends them a text, they're going to get much better results for their clientele than probably what we're getting right now as well.
Yeah. I think there's something about that personal connection that you make with a lot of people. Like you said, I'll text clients, say, how'd you feel after Monday, or, you know, et cetera, whatever it is. How'd you sleep? You know, anything like that that's related to that stuff. Or I'll have clients who will text me and be like, hey, I'm going out to this place. Like, what's a good idea for me to do?
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like, it's not constant communication, right? But it's a lot more open communication to where we can help even when we're not just in the session, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And another benefit to a trainer is not just the friend and the personal aspect, but you have eyes on you. And when you have eyes on you, sometimes I had a client today, we were looking in the mirror and they see that they're moving over, but they didn't see it till I told them. And we talked about how the brain perceives things. I remember having this one guy, he was a waiter. We were doing overhead carries, and they were really strong overhead, but they were walking with their body tilted to the left because that's how they carried their trays.
Sure.
With their arms straight up. And they're like, I am completely straight. And I was like, you got to realize you're not completely straight. Your brain perceives that as straight because you do it all the time. And all because you do it all the time doesn't mean it's right.
It's the same thing of like when I have people who squat with maybe more of an external rotation, you know, in the hips or the feet. And then you kind of bring them in a little bit more narrow, and it feels like you're like this, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
Like
they feel like you're pigeon-toed.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And I'm like, but if you look down, clearly you're not, right? Like you're in a neutral position. Maybe you're a little more externally rotated, but it's just those things where you become so used to being in that position that you don't realize, right? That you're even out of alignment or whatever it is. So there's so many benefits to it, man.
Yeah. And we talked about eating out and saving money, but you're chasing a fitness goal. Imagine eating out and then you don't know what calories you're having. And your goal is to chase this fitness goal. And there's a lot of hidden calories. We got to realize, even though it says, let's just say, keep the math simple, it's 100 pounds or 100 calories. It could be 80 calories or 120. Imagine if your meal is 1,000 calories. Now it could be 800 calories or 1,200 calories. And you can't tell me because this variance that the FDA allows doesn't mean it's further out. And then the second thing you got to take consideration is, what if you have a person who's heavy on the butter, we all been at Chipotle or like Freebirds or something like that, where they're doing the scoops. You want that person who scoops a lot, right? That's
Give
extra calories.
Yeah.
Just saying, if that's going to hit your goal, right? If your goal is weight loss, it's going to make it much harder to hit your macros. It's going to make it much harder. So it's a double-edged sword. Now you're spending money, plus now you're not getting your fitness goals because you can't judge the calories how you need to.
And like if you are on a budget, right, budgeting for the trainer kind of sets up a barrier, right, to where you can't go out, right? Well, like I have to budget this money for this. Yeah. And so then it kind of forces you into eating at home or making a better choice or not going out or not getting a bunch of alcohol when you do go out or whatever it is, right? So you're setting up these barriers for yourself to just better yourself, to get to your goals, to really, you know, like drive it home, to really prove to yourself that you can do this thing. And I mean, we talk about setting up barriers when you're trying to lose weight, right? Like, hey, if you know that you're going to smash a whole thing of Oreos, don't buy the damn Oreos, right?
Yeah.
Same concept here. And so
That's why you don't get chips. Right?
That's why I don't get chips. Yeah. And so, it's the thing where it's like people do have the time, right? You probably have the money. It's just about prioritizing it and making it like a reality.
Yeah. And I will say there are people who really can't afford. There's different options, right?
Yeah.
That's where the online coaching space is. That's where
a 30-minute session, right?
30 minutes an hour. That's where group training. I would recommend if you're doing group training, try to do a group of 3 or less if you can.
Yeah.
Because typically, let's say you got a trainer who charges $30 per hour for that 3 group, right? Or 25 or 20. You probably could afford that per week just by cutting one meal, fast food meal out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you'd be fine.
At least you're getting 1 session a week.
Mm-hmm. So there was something on Reddit, which I read. Mm-hmm. It was like real quick. I don't remember all the details, but I do remember the numbers.
Okay.
So each generation, so you got the boomers, Gen X, us, the millennials, and Gen Zers.
Right.
And they were talking about what is a good amount of money for a couple to make together, right?
Okay.
So I'm going to let you guess first what the boomers said.
I'm going to say that they think making 100,000 is good.
Dang, you're good. That was a good one. Okay. It's 99K.
Okay.
Which we know today's time is not really that good.
It doesn't really take you anywhere. Yeah.
Yes. And you got to think this is like United States worldwide. 99K is going to get you nowhere in California or New York and other those places, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go into Gen X.
Gen X. I'm gonna go 150.
Way off.
Okay.
Gen X thinks $212,000 is good enough.
Damn.
Which makes sense with the East Coast, West Coast information.
Yeah.
Which is, or if you're in the Bay Area, you're still like middle class there, right?
Yeah.
I would say 212, and where we live, you're doing pretty well.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, millennials. We're younger.
Yeah.
What would you think?
I'm gonna guess that we're probably around like 300,000. Is that what we're saying?
Actually, I feel like the millennials are the most realistic group.
Okay.
What 180.
180,000. I think so, because when you said 200,000, like that would be.
But don't you think? Wow, millennials are actually pretty realistic of what.
Yeah, that is, because it's like 200,000. Let's say a couple, each person makes between $50,000 and $60,000 a year, right?
If they make 60, it's 120.
Yeah, so you're at about like 120, and I think that at that point, like you can get by. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you probably.
But 180 gives you a cushion.
But 180 gives you a little bit of cushion. I think 200,000. That's like double.
And that's where we live in the Bay Area. That wouldn't give you no cushion.
Right, it wouldn't. Right, but in Texas at least, like if we made $200,000 together, like I'd be like, I don't got any problems as long as we lived within our means that we're currently at now. Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
easy.
Not going above that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Woo! You ready for Gen Z?
Oh man, what do they think?
Give me a number.
It's funny because I don't want to just keep going up, because I don't think that's what it is. I would think that they're probably more out of touch. I would think that they don't understand how much money you need to make. So I'm going to say around like 100,000, 150,000.
I do think they're very out of touch, but not in the way you think.
Okay. So are they thinking more?
$567,000.
God damn. That's insane, dude.
That just shows you how out of touch with social media and things they are.
Yeah. So that's, and
they don't know what
crazy.
Real like work is right now. Like, and how the concept of money works. And me and Amanda were talking to about like, a lot of these girls are used to getting their nails done, their hair done. Their dad gives them everything.
Yeah.
And it made me think, well, because people are having children at a higher age or older age compared to before. So these kids grow up and their parents are already at their financial peak.
Yeah.
And so therefore they think this is normal. This is a normal progression. When in reality, me growing up, seeing my parents struggle and then at their financial peak after I get out of college, and kind of what my kids are going to see, or your daughter too is going to see, oh, now we're at this financial peak. They're going to understand there's a difference between where you start and where you finish. And a lot of these kids are growing up, their parents are already at like 35, 30, 34, maybe after that having kids. And they think this is where my parents started, but they never saw the actual part of work.
It makes me wonder about like my kids, right? Or my kid. And other people's kids who are, because I ask my daughter a lot of times, like, how old are your friends' parents? You know what I mean? And sometimes they're young, like I am. Sometimes they're a little bit older. But I wonder,
think it's because of the side of town you're on.
Yeah, that too. And I think that's an important thing though, because I wonder, like what my daughter would think, right? Because it's like, now within the past, like I would say 3 years, have I finally gotten to a point where I'm like making money that's enough to like actually provide something. Mm-hmm. Whereas before, you know, when my daughter was really young, I was working at fucking Target or like a call center or whatever, not really making anything, right? Like I wasn't even making enough to get by. I was living at home, et cetera, stuff like that. And
make enough to make pancakes.
Yeah, for real, you know, or just like whatever. And it's funny too, because looking at my childhood, you know, my parents did pretty well for themselves, at least. You know, like my mom worked in a dental thing, you know, my dad worked in hospitals, stuff like that. And it's kind of funny because like now that I see them as I've gotten older, I'm like, I don't know if they, like, I think they hit their financial peak then. And I think this is just like an individual experience, but like looking at them now, I'm like, I wonder when, like, I don't really feel like they're at a financial peak now. I almost feel like it's kind of gone backwards. And like, I see myself now.
But do you think that has to do with development of skill set and continue education and stop growing?
Yeah.
Because I feel like where my father did better is he continued to educate himself, and that's why he kept on moving up and kept on getting better.
Yeah.
Then he's like, you know what? I'm going to hustle and grind for this 2-year stint. While I was in college, while my sister was in college, I think my brothers already graduated, and he went into the private sector while doing his state job.
I see that more in my dad now. So my dad's gone back to school, right? Like he's working hard to get like his like better certifications or licenses and stuff like that. So I'm assuming that at some point he'll kind of reach that point where it's like, okay, now
you'll see that.
Yeah. But it's like, you know, and maybe it has to do with like the time it was, you know, because it was like, well, my dad went to work and did all this stuff, and mom, you know, stayed home and took care of us and whatever it is. So I don't know. There's just so many factors to it, but regardless, 500,000 is insane.
Gen Z's
yeah, that's fucking crazy.
Like I get the boomers because they grew up in a time where it was very affordable, inflation hit, and then they're like, well, inflation's normal, but the last 5 years, that's not normal inflation.
So I would say, you know, if we could summarize it, I think that if we're living in this time right now, at least in Texas, you'd probably want to make somewhere between $150,000 to like $250,000, right? In order to
I could even drop that 150 down to like 130,
130 to like
for a couple.
Yeah.
With no kids.
Right. Yeah. With no kids. Yeah.
And I think you'd be pretty good.
Yeah.
You just got to manage your money at that point.
Yeah. True.
Where I was thinking next is we saw the announcement, the University of Texas is going to give free tuition for kids that parents make under $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
Do you know how this is possible?
I don't.
So they have endowments and stocks and all these things.
Okay.
That actually makes the money more money than actual tuition fees. Like they don't really make any money off of that. That's just enough to pay for professors and stuff like that. But they make so much money off of endowments, stocks. It's been around forever. And I think colleges are going to start going to this, like Harvard, Yale. They make so much money that has nothing to do with tuition. And they're going to pick the students that they want. And this is where I think college is really going to change, is you're no longer to see like these fine arts schools and things like that because they don't make money outside of school. Right? So it's pointless for kids to go to school like that. Now they should go into like, I'm going to go move to New York and get some internships and do apprenticeships and stuff like that. I even think engineering is going to change. I think the whole system is going to go flip over where unless you're going to be a doctor, unless you're going to go into research and certain things, that's when you're going to go to school.
Interesting.
Because of the affordability crisis.
Yeah. So I wonder if those will end up being like the
big institutions.
And like, you know, this is way future looking, right? But I wonder if at some point, doctor, engineer, physical therapist, whatever it is, will be the careers that have degrees, and the rest of them will just be kind of like experience based or whatever it is. Because we've already kind of gotten to a point where like, I kind of think in at least some career fields, having a degree doesn't matter.
Okay. I'm going to give you a bunch of degrees that don't matter.
Yeah.
Our field.
Sure.
Right. Actually, I think businesses I mean, experience and going through it while reading about it is probably more valuable as an apprentice, you know, learn that way. Yeah, like plumbing and all that stuff, the certifications and apprenticeship,
like
trade schools, those concepts. Now, my daughter loves art and yarn and crochets and sews and stuff like that. Why do you need to go to university for that?
You don't.
You don't.
Yeah.
Art, singing, the music, anything in music field, right?
Yeah.
Engineering at this point, engineering changes so long, and AI technology is getting to the point where they could do the engineering for you, and then you just got to do
even like computer like software stuff and things like that. I had a friend who did that when I was in college at Texas State, and he was like all of it is like certifications. You just go
you're
online.
past, by the time you finish school, you're already behind if you don't do anything outside of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And business is the same way. The only thing I can think of is like, I want my doctor to have a certain like schooling through things that you need to like.
It's just different, right? It's a different set of education. Huh.
Yeah. I really think that's the way it's just headed.
Yeah.
It's crazy. There's people I know who don't have degrees, but are smarter with nutrition than actual nutritionists.
Right. I mean, same thing in our field, right? Like how many people do we know that have a bunch of certifications, right? That it's just like
they're horrible trainers.
Yeah. Doesn't matter.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's going to be a cool time. A lot of growing, I guess, pain.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be an interesting few years.
You know, I've always wanted a human washing machine.
Yeah. Dude. You know, one of the things that I've always thought about is that I wish that after a shower, I could just get out and like go through a car wash blower system and just like be dry. Yeah. I hate that shit. I hate having to take a whole shower and then have to dry myself out. That sucks. Yeah. They're apparently making a human washing machine, right? It's like a pod. Yeah. Like step inside.
Yeah, sounds, baby. Just like sit there like this.
Pretty nice, man. Yeah.
You know where they're probably going to use it first? Huh. In nursing homes and stuff like that.
Ooh, yeah. That would be really smart.
Dude, think about it. Like a nurse just puts them in there. They come out and they're clean. And then a nurse doesn't have to like physically put their back or anything. It's
going to help with like longevity of the job. It's going to help with like sexual assault and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yep. And like stopping that from even being.
Hospitals, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really smart.
It's actually a smart invention.
Yeah. I hope they do make that.
It's a thing. Yeah. And then you sent me this, the telltale signs of a Photoshop. Mm-hmm. Dude, that was hilarious.
It's so weird now with all of like the AI art and like all of these things coming out and how it's pretty like indistinguishable sometimes, you know, especially it's funny. I saw this video a while back where I think it was like one of the first AI videos that had come out where it was like Will Smith eating spaghetti and it was like a bunch of clips of it. And you could tell it was just like not good, you know? And then they showed like within a year, like the same prompt, same video. And it was like, you could still tell it was AI, but it was way better, really? You know? And it's like, it's pretty crazy how a lot of these things are coming out. I saw recently that, I forgot where it was, some country somewhere where they like are going to start like prosecuting people who like make, I guess, fake AI art of people they know or of celebrities or things like that.
I think there's gonna be a lot of rules around like this stuff coming.
And it's hard though, because like, how do you prove it? You know, if it gets to a point where it's like indistinguishable from like actual, you know, voiceovers or things like that, like
it's going to be wild. It's a big transition, like rules wise, right? Because they could take our voice right now. We've done so many. Yeah. And then make it sound like we said something that we didn't say. Yeah. It's a wild time. And then AI is just going to get better. Yeah. And better. It's going to take more energy. I think that's why there's a push to nuclear energy that I've been recently seeing. Yeah. I've even seen like AI podcasts. I don't know if you've seen that where they like, will like prompt a thing and it's like two people talking, you know, like a male and a female voice and they'll discuss an issue and all this stuff. And it sounds totally real. I mean, I saw this Reddit of a girlfriend. This guy was like venting, like he doesn't want to be with his girlfriend anymore because she was going to AI to win an argument by going to ChatGPT, writing whatever she did. And he's like, whatever you write in it, it's going to prove whatever your point is. So you're just proving whatever point versus understanding what I'm trying to tell you.
That's insane, dude. Like just to be right. Just to be right.
It's wild. AI is making people think too that it's always right. But you could put whatever prompt, whatever you could put something so extreme, saying this group of people is the reason why the world sucks, right? And it'll probably spit out so much information. Yeah. And it'll prove your point. And then you could be like, see, But now we have to distinguish knowledge from actual wisdom.
And
that's going to be the hard part.
It also comes down to the fact of like, I don't know, the internet as like an abstract concept of like people just believe shit that's on the internet.
After all these years, you think people would be like, oh, this.
No, if anything, I feel like it's clearly gotten worse. Yeah. Right? Because I'm just like, well, AI said it, Chat GPT said it. And just because it's Chat GPT, that just means it's always right. Like you said, I can go in there and type in like, prove that machines are a better or are the best workout implement, and write me, 3 pages about it. And it'll spit something out. And then, if I'm somebody who just believes anything, I'll be like, oh my God, well, look, see?
This is,
yeah. And then I can do the same thing right after and be like, okay, now prove to me that barbells are the best.
I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of guys who believe all these OF girls are real people behind that. And it's just someone using AI and manipulating these boys.
And they've proven it too, right? Yeah. That it's like, there's like whole like call centers and shit for that.
Which makes me upset about the fitness space too. I sent you a video recently. Love Brett Contreras. I love Squat University. Oh, yeah. But fucking clipping is starting to get annoying.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, what he's saying isn't wrong or right. What he's saying isn't wrong or right.
You're talking about the Bulgarian split squat one?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, my fucking God.
Yeah. So just
I hate it.
Real quick. Yeah. So it was like Squat University posted a video where they were talking about split squats and which side to hold the weight on if you're doing a single dumbbell or kettlebell, right? Like whether to hold it on the opposite hand,
stupid shit,
or the average hand, person. Right? Yes, and they're like, if you hold it on the left side, then it activates the glute more, and blah blah blah. And you hold it on this side, etc., whatever. And then Brett was doing like the clip or the what do you call it? Like a duet, right? Like he was like talking about the video, and he was like, I love Squat University, and they're great. And I think he did good. Like he was like, go follow them. He's a good. But on this one, I think he's wrong, and I'm going to disagree. And I think and it just gets to this point where, like we've talked about, and the point that you're getting at too is just like, dude, you're overcomplicating some shit, and it's like,
I want to sound like the rightest science bro ever.
Yeah. And it's like, dude, is changing the fucking hand that you have it on really gonna do so much? You know what I mean? I mean, they've even done research on like parallel squats to ass to grass, right? And how much muscle activation happens between the two. You know how much different it is? Not a lot. Right. And so it's like, just do the one that you can get to, right? Like at least get to parallel.
Yeah.
If you can get to ass to grass, cool. But it's not like that's going to do so much more. And, people will sit and argue about it. I'm sure if someone saw this, they're going to be like, oh no, ass to grass has been proven to block. You know what I mean? And it's just like, bro, just fucking
for what squat. Person, what am I doing it for? Yeah, there's so many factors.
Yeah. There's so many reasons why I might have somebody hold it on the same side, or I might have them hold it on the opposite side. There's never a right answer.
Because they're both good people, right?
Yeah.
And I hate a good person talking about a good person when they're both putting good material out.
Right.
Why the fuck is that the person?
Well, why are you doing this?
You gotta hate on. Why can't you hate on the person who, I heard this guy talk about this girl was faking cancer and that she took a supplement and she was selling this supplement to all these girls that had cancer. Like that's the person that you have to fucking go after.
Yes,
like,
yeah.
Go after people who are giving nonsense.
Right. Yeah. You're going after the wrong guy. Yeah, because I guess at the end of the day, it's like, for what reason?
I bet you for clicks. He's going to get a bunch of clicks, and then you're going to be the Brett Contreras camp, and then you're going to hit the Squat University camp when they're both fucking right.
And you're right.
And they're both wrong in this situation.
He went after such like a big name.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't want to say he went after, right? Like
he's a big name himself.
Yeah, he didn't go and was like fucking crushing him or whatever.
God, I can't stand it.
But it was just, it's silly because you're right. Like, it's like, okay, well, if we made a video that talked about Squat University, how many people would we get, in the comments and DMs that were like, oh,
go after the people who are just like killing people.
Yeah. Go after the guys that are yelling about the grocery store food and shit like that. Like, I don't know. Silly.
God, dude. Okay. All right. Before we go into the studies,
let's go.
Are you going to try the barbecue challenge?
What was this one?
You sent it to me.
I know. Yeah. It was.
It's the one where they get 2 benches and they're straight.
Oh, yeah.
And their neck.
And they're fucking doing the rotisserie. Yeah. Dude, that was funny.
Dude, to me, that's good neck strength.
Yeah, dude. That was the thing because they were like on their forehead on the other side and like just the toes on the opposite end of the bench and like fucking rolling back and forth. And I was like, there's no way.
The average person's going to do that. My neck.
Dude, yeah. I was like thinking about it. Like, I'm like, dude, you got to hold up like 200 pounds with your fucking neck muscles, and then roll around. Like, it looks super silly and funny. And it looked kind of fun also.
So look it up, barbecue challenge, guys.
But make sure you clean the bench beforehand because you don't want to get your face in someone's ass sweat.
I was wondering why it was so wet in that big
Take a big whiff.
Woo!
Oh yeah.
All right. First study. When muscles work out, they help the neurons to grow. So in the study, exercise can benefit at the level of neurons through a chemical and mechanical effects. Researchers find the discovery could inform exercise-related therapies for damaged and deteriorating nerves.
Wow.
So I think we know this. Why do we keep on talking about how the mind and body are separate when everything works together? And so in the study, the myokines is what they found helped with the neuron growth go faster and further when you move the body. And so you built more neurons, you repaired more neurons, but they even took the neurons outside and they just did mechanical tension without it being in the body, without having the myokines. And they still saw this effect 30 days later where the neurons were able to fire faster and further.
So they're talking about in the brain.
In the brain and throughout the body.
Okay, so even like the motor units and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense.
We're meant to move.
We're meant to move. Yeah, beyond anything else. I mean, we did, I was editing our podcast the other day and I was like, and I was listening to us talk about how sitting, right, for a prolonged period of time, even if you're active, right, can be detrimental. And it just like reiterates to me over and over and over again that we're just like meant to move all the time. We are never meant to be still. When you are still, like, you are dying, essentially, you know? And it's like when you're moving, you're fucking living. And so getting into the gym, doing something, even if it's one day a week, you know, like, so I have a client, we come in one day a week, we scanned, and I think it had been like about a year-ish since like our last one, because we don't really care about that. We're just trying to like build muscle and stuff like that. And he's made gains, you know, like he's built muscle, he's gained weight because that's one of his goals. His body fat percentage has dropped. And I was like,
okay, so you're telling me you measured before you measured in a year. He didn't care.
Right.
What happened? He just had to build habits, right?
He just had to build habits. And it was just like consistently coming in, even one day a week. And I told him, I was like, dude, this reiterates to me, if nothing else, that even one day a week is enough to make some sort of change, right? Some positive change.
What? One day?
Yeah. And even if you're not sleeping super well, even if your maybe diet isn't perfect, right? Like whatever, even if you're coming in one day a week and you're just consistent for a whole year, you're going to make gains. It's going to happen. And it just like, dude, you got to move. You just got to do shit, you know? I mean, I don't know if you have any clients. Well, you do, right? Have clients who have like Parkinson's and things like that. Like how much better are they now that they work out, right? As opposed to if they did nothing.
Yeah. I mean, that client I was talking about earlier about the stretch lab and stuff, she comes in one day a week and she's like, this is all I have to do. Yeah. And she's been getting all this benefit from pain. And I was like, you don't have to do as much as you think.
Yeah.
She's like, this is so counterintuitive.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I hope at some point the thought behind working out just gets to just working out to be healthy. Like we said, I don't know if you saw the other day when we were at Crunch together. I know that you had mentioned the last time we were there.
All of them were staring at this motherfucker. I was strong.
This guy was getting jacked in there. Yeah. Everybody was like, what the fuck is going on?
This guy does not look strong, but he is strong.
You had mentioned the last time that there was like people who, you know, generally you wouldn't think would go to the gym, right? Quote unquote. But there was a lot of people who were doing stuff, you know, and there was a guy there that I saw who was working out. And I hope that we see more of that. Just people going to the gym to work out, whether or not they lose weight, whether or not, you know, they're lifting a whole bunch of weight or training for powerlifting your body. You know, who gives a shit? You just need to go to the gym. You just need to be doing something.
Okay.
You know, and I hope that at some point we see more of that.
Yeah. So, by the way, the study was about deteriorating nerves.
I know, but it's like, it's the point.
But you're just saying if you just move out and work out, you feel better.
Right.
And I was trying to tell my kids, if you know a lot of highly successful people who live longer, work out. And it's just that simple. And they're highly successful because they can think clear.
Yeah.
It's working out actually clears the mind.
It does so much, man. It's the best thing ever.
The way I explain it is cardio allows you to think things through because you don't have to think through the activity as much. And strength training, you have to focus more. So you get out of your world and you have to focus in the moment. So it puts you more in the moment and present. And those are the ways I kind of divide cardio from a mental aspect.
Yeah, interesting.
And strength training. All right. Study number 2. Weight loss drug reduces risk of early death for patients with heart failure and trial finds. Weight loss and diabetes drug tirzepatide can reduce the risk of death or worsening heart failure for patients with obesity and heart failure with preserved pump function, new research reveals. So pretty much they're claiming the drug, right? But if you actually read the research, it's because they end up losing a lot of weight. Their BMI drops tremendously.
Yeah.
So it just comes down to whether you use the drug or not, as long as you lose a substantial amount of weight and preferably working out, because these people lost a lot of muscle too. And they were still healthier than what they were at obese. It tells you being closer to, I hate this term, but like normal weight, close to better body percent fat at the end of the day will give you better health overall.
Right. Yeah. I mean, obesity is such a big, like,
whoa,
I don't
can't use obesity and big together. That is so out of touch today,
how
bro.
Dare you?
How dare you? Obese, please.
So I'm
canceled.
I don't know if you had seen it, but I sent you like a quick image or something like that of like an x-ray of like an obese person with the skeleton right inside and then all of the fat kind of surrounding it. And I don't think that we understand how life-threatening it is to be obese, right? And I know we talked about this a lot too, in terms of like, you know, body positivity and stuff like that. And it's okay to be happy with yourself no matter what, but you should always try and strive to be healthy. Right. And I think that those are two different things. And so, yeah, I mean, it makes sense, man.
I think people in the United States thinking to the extreme of like, I have to be 10% body fat. Like,
which is weird because
you go to Europe, it's not like that. I was in Mexico City. There was no freaking jacked people, but you could tell they were healthy, moving because they had to walk everywhere.
And the funny thing too is like in an opposite perspective of it, to be healthy, people think that you need to be like this extreme level of healthy, right? But to be unhealthy, people don't think that being a little bit overweight is bad, right? When it does, right? When there's already like implications of it being unhealthy, but like it's not until you get to this like super extreme level that you're like, oh, okay, like then it's bad. And so we only think in these like big extremes, you know.
And being in both extremes is unhealthy.
Yeah,
like
both
bodybuilders are completely unhealthy.
Yeah, like if you're gonna tell me, oh, okay, I'll be healthy when I'm 8% body fat, I'd be like, no, that's bad too.
You just had that trainer who went to a show and
and she was like, dude, I'm tired. Like this shit kind of sucks, you know.
Yep, not for me.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
All right, guys, we're going to go into our Fort Fitness questions. The first question is, how long does it take to really start feeling like you understand fitness? And when do you feel that you have a full understanding of fitness?
I mean, I still don't feel like I have a full understanding.
I think what happens is there's this curve, right? You're like, I know everything. I know. I'm getting I know everything. Oh shit, I don't know anything. I don't know anything. I know more. And then it just goes back and forward.
Yeah.
But if I was to put like, if you did it consistently and not knowing like fitness for another person, like for yourself, you should be able to like in 5 years kind of like know more or less, okay, my body moves this way. If you're really focused
for your individual self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to train other people, it takes a long.
And so I think that's a good distinction to make too, because most people only need to understand fitness for themselves. You don't need to understand fitness for everybody else, right? And so I think that's one of those things when you are looking at social media or whatever, I think you should constantly think to yourself, does this apply to me, right? Does this apply to my situation, my goal, whatever, right? You're smiling. What are you laughing about?
Because there's too many times I see people who are like, this is what works because it works for me. And I was like, that's for you, bro. Like,
and it is just for you. Right. And so, and leave it that way. Right. So, you know, someone asks you a question. When people ask me questions as a personal trainer, I always say like, this is my experience, right? This is my experience when I've done this thing. Now it might apply to you, but I think that maybe we should do this, you know, et cetera, whatever.
But we can pull from more people because we're like, this is my experience. And I've had a client like this and I had a client like this. I had a client like this. Which of these sound like it works for you?
Right. And so I think you talking about that kind of like up and down sort of wave, you know, the first, like when I got out and I had my certification and I got my degree and I was working at Planet Fitness and doing all the machines, I was like, man, I got this shit down. you know. And then I went and got like my first like 2 clients, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And then I met you, and then I learned how to program, and I was like, okay, I think I understand it more. And then, you know, I'm not going to do this part. Oh, but that part did matter. So, you know, and so it's like, it's this long process. And I think, like you said, in 5 years, you know, you kind of figure out what you need for yourself. But if you're a trainer, right, like this is a trainer asking, like it's a never ending journey. You know, you're constantly learning.
And even if you know what you need for yourself in 5 years, your journey is never ending, because now you may have kids, now you may not, then your kids go to high school, it's a different stress. And then you have grandkids, and then like life changes. You may have transitioned a job. So even fitness goes into what your everyday life is.
I think that you should not strive for a full understanding, right? Don't think that you're going to get there, because you never will.
Yeah. Is there a best way to work out for someone who wants to just get strong? If so, what should it look like, and what exercises should I do?
I like it. I like getting strong.
Yeah. Well, you got to meet our boy Austin.
Yeah.
So you're either going to lift like a strongman or powerlifter, or something like that. You know, you're just going to lift really heavy. Understanding that it takes less than you think.
Yes.
And then understanding it's all technique. And you're not focused on muscle tension, but you're focused on movement pattern.
Yeah. And efficiency. Right. Yeah. You're not looking at a whole bunch of volume. You know, I think that's funny too, when people are like, oh, I'm trying to get really strong. And I'm like, okay, what do you do? They're like, okay, I do like 10 different chest exercises. I'm like, okay, we're not getting strong then.
That's funny when you told your client, I only did 4 sets of 1 rep.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I had that conversation. I don't know if I had said that in the last podcast or if I just talked to you about it. I think we just talked about it at Crunch. But yeah, I had a client who had asked me, and we were doing tricep extensions or something like that. And he was like, why is 12 the magic number? And I was like, well, like it kind of really isn't, you know, like, yeah, we've done research, and, you know, they say like, okay, well, this is a good range for hypertrophy. This is a good range for endurance. This is a good range for strength. But you can really kind of do all of those types of things in whatever rep range, right? Like depending on just how you're lifting. But I was telling him, I was like, yeah, when I'm looking for strength, I do 4 sets of 1. And he was like, what? Like 1 rep is enough? And I was like, oh yeah, dude, like that's kind of what you should be doing.
You're training your central nervous system.
Yeah. If I'm doing more than 12 reps or more than 5 reps, then I'm not really training for strength now. You know, I'm changing what I'm doing completely. And so it just, yeah, you're going to do really heavy weights, you know, lower rep ranges. You're going to really work on your technique, like you said, your mobility probably. But yeah, I wouldn't go and start doing splits and stuff like that, because that ain't going to help you.
Yeah. All right. Question number 3. Does having pain in a spot mean you will always have pain in that area as you get older?
Interesting.
There is a thing of like PTSD with pain. So that could be an issue, right?
Like a fear avoidance.
So like, it's like anytime you stress, that's where you're getting pain. That could be something that will last forever. If not, it's probably because you're doing something habitually that you don't realize, whether it's driving, the way you're standing. I literally had this conversation today, and I was like, this is why your left hip, when we talked about the squat, your left hip hurts because you're always leaning towards that way. Like, what do you do when you're in everyday life? And they're like, oh, I always lean to my left.
Yeah.
And I was like, watch, lean to your right. It's going to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But that's what you're going to want to start doing to alleviate the left.
I'll never forget. This is just like a funny story, but I remember when I worked at the PT clinic, there was this one patient, and I don't know if they like didn't want to get discharged. Like, I don't know if they just wanted to have something wrong.
Some people like PT.
Some people are like that, right? Yeah. And I remember the doctor I was working with, she like didn't take no shit from anybody. So she was just like sitting there listening to this lady talk. And the lady was kind of standing, and she had like a purse and was like kind of shifted over to the side, you know? And she was like, well, my hip always hurts. Like my right hip always hurts. And the doctor was like, well, stop standing like that. Like, because you're always like shifted. And she was like, if you're standing like that all the time, of course it's going to hurt. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. Like, get out of here. But
just switch the purse to the other side.
Yeah. And, you know, I was watching a video, I think it was Squat University today. And they were talking about like disc herniations and stuff like that, and how, you know, I think that we've said this before, and it's kind of one of those things where they're like, if you take an MRI of anybody's spine, like everybody has at least like some sort of disc bulge or something like that that's happened through life, right? But it's just about like rehabbing the injury, you know, coming back and loading properly, getting better technique and stuff like that. Like, I think there's some pain that we don't necessarily have to live with, right? And I think some people kind of just say like, oh, I hurt my back deadlifting, so I'm just never going to deadlift again. And that's just the way it is. But I think that there's certain pain that maybe does never quote unquote go away, but a lot of it I think can be fixed over time.
Yeah. It just takes time. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Because your body remembers it and it always wants to go back.
Right.
All right. Question number 4. How can I make my office party meal and snack effective for my weight loss goal in December?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
I think it's easy. Hopefully you know what you're getting for the office meal.
Sure.
And if you do, stick to the protein as much as possible. And if your goal is weight loss, maybe you take that one day. And so you'd be an extreme calorie deficit Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and let's just say Friday. When you go to the meal on Saturday, you can enjoy yourself a little bit more, but keep yourself under control.
Yeah.
And that's the way to be most successful. So I'll give you a perfect example. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow for Thanksgiving, I will literally be in a calorie deficit after being in a small surplus for the weekend. So I was 3 pounds heavier on Monday. I'm down 3 pounds. So now my inflammation and stuff is down. I'll be in another deficit today, and then another deficit. And then like you could do this on Saturday if that's when the meal is, do a HIIT workout early on in the day or right before you're about to go eat, and then shower and then go eat. And then you can absorb this food a little bit better. I don't think people talk about this enough, where they're like, well, you're just working out. You say working out doesn't matter. And I'm like, if you work out to empty out the carbohydrate stores, the uptake of carbohydrates is much better. And then your decision making afterwards becomes better.
Yeah, that too, right? Just the mental process of it. If it's like a potluck or something like that, I would suggest like choosing a thing to bring that you can just eat on your own. So like, okay, maybe I'm going to choose to bring the turkey or whatever it is, right? Like the lean protein, or I'll do the vegetables or something like that. Just so you know, at least there's like one option there that isn't totally fucked. You know?
I usually do, if I do a potluck, I usually do the vegetable because someone's going to bring meat.
Yes. Yeah. It's going to be there. Right. Yeah. Don't bring the dessert, right? Like choose something that's going to like set you up, right? Like again, setting boundaries, right? Like, okay, I'm going to make sure I bring something that at least I know.
I love bringing the veggie tray.
Yeah. Cause nobody's going to eat it too.
Yeah. I'm over there snacking on the celery and carrots, and everybody's like, bro, you should have this pasta. I was like, I really don't want it right now.
The macaroni with the macaroni on top.
Doesn't mean I'll take a bite.
Yeah.
All right, guys, if you like what we're doing, you can share on Apple and Spotify. You can rate and review. Check us out on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button right now. Then, if you like, and leave a comment below, it'll be a great thing for us, and we can message you back. Our website is strengthsolutionspodcast.com. Free blogs, free guides, and programs for purchase. Our email is strengthsolutionspodcast@gmail.com. Then our social media, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram is Strength Solutions Podcast. I'm Strength Solutions Edwin.
I'm Strength Solutions Nathaniel.
Until next time, guys, what? Peace out.